but smile even wider. Alright, then after we return from our honeymoon, we can consider undergoing an IVF program to start our little family. He replied with a hopeful look. Agreed, Ling replied quickly, without a hint of hesitation in her eyes. Now, how about we continue our journey? He encouraged. The sky was getting darker. Night was falling over the city, but the lights along the streets still illuminated the atmosphere beautifully. Ling and Orm decided to stop at a famous Japanese restaurant, Ichiran Ramen, known for its calm atmosphere and authentic ramen. As soon as they entered the restaurant, they chose a seat by the window so that they could see the streets outside. Shortly after they sat down, a waiter came over to take their orders. Ling and Orm ordered the restaurant's specialty, tonkatsu ramen, a bowl of ramen with a rich broth, accompanied by tender chashu meat and topped with a half-boiled egg. While waiting for their order, Ling gazed tenderly at Orm. His smile never faded throughout the day, like the warm radiance that filled his face. However, the warm atmosphere between them slowly changed when Ling began to feel that there were some people watching them from a distance. Ling turned her head slightly and found two enthusiastic yet awkward-looking young women looking at them. After a while of whispering to each other, the two women finally ventured to walk over. Peeling, right? We're big fans of Phi, one of them said in a slightly shaky voice, clearly showing a nervousness that could not be hidden. Ling smiled kindly and nodded her head. Right, that's me, she replied, trying to maintain a relaxed and friendly tone. The other woman spoke up, this time her voice sounding hopeful. May we have a photo together just once, Peeling? Ling looked at Orm for a moment, as if seeking his approval. Orm, who understood that Ling was a public figure with many fans, simply smiled and nodded. In fact, Orm volunteered to take their picture. Come on, let me take a picture of you together, Orm said with a warm smile. The two women looked so happy. They quickly stood beside Ling with beaming faces. After Orm took a few photos, they bowed respectfully and smiled gratefully. Thank you very much, Peeling. We're so happy, they said as they ran off cheerfully, leaving Ling and Orm alone again at their table. After the fans left, Ling sighed heavily, her gaze momentarily wandering. Sometimes I'm confused. Why is it that people these days seem to have such a lack of understanding about the boundaries of an artist's privacy? Artists are human beings too. They have their own personal lives that they want to protect, she said in a soft but soulful voice. Orm listened attentively, then took Ling's hand and grasped it gently. I understand. Phi, sometimes you may feel uncomfortable with those who invade your privacy. But remember, those people appreciate your work and dedication. Their support is what makes your journey as an artist worthwhile. Ling smiled, nodding slowly as she looked into Orm's understanding eyes. Thank you, Orm. Your words always manage to calm me down. Finally, the ramen they ordered arrived, the appetizing aroma of the thick soup instantly filling their senses. Ling took the first bite and immediately smiled widely. This is so good. It tastes better than I expected, she said enthusiastically, her annoyance now replaced with contentment after tasting the ramen. Orm laughed a little at Ling's reaction. He also tasted the ramen in one mouthful and nodded in agreement. Yes, this is the best ramen I've ever tried, he said as he continued to enjoy his meal. After enjoying their dinner with great satisfaction, Ling and Orm looked so cheerful. Ling had even ordered an extra bowl of ramen because the flavor of the ramen at the restaurant had really whetted her appetite. Orm just smiled at Ling's enthusiasm, who savored every mouthful like a child discovering his favorite food. After finishing their meal, Ling took Orm to the cashier. Ling responsibly paid for their meal without hesitation. Afterwards, she gently took Orm's hand, leading her to the car parked outside the restaurant. "Please come in, princess," Ling said in a gentle tone as she opened the door for Orm. Her smile never faded, adding to the sweetness of that simple moment. Orm returned the warm smile. "Thank you very much, Fi," he said as he entered the car with a small smile, knowing that Ling's small attention was a sincere form of love. Ling closed the door after making sure Orm was seated comfortably, then walked to the driver's side, got in, started the engine, and deftly started driving towards their villa. In the car, without many words, each other's presence was enough. Ling, driving leisurely, occasionally looked over at Orm, who seemed to be enjoying the night view from the window. Ling stopped the car right in front of their villa, ending the long journey with a sense of satisfaction. She got out first, then immediately opened the door for Orm, who was still sitting in the car. "Thank you, Fi," Orm said with a sweet smile, getting down gracefully from the passenger seat. Ling returned the smile while gently stroking Orm's hair. "Get in first. I'll tidy up our groceries," she said in a soft, caring voice that was so distinctive. Orm gave a small nod, but then muttered, I want to get clean too." He felt the need for a shower to refresh his body after a long day of traveling around. Ling nodded in understanding, and Orm hurried into the villa. After making sure Orm was inside, Ling opened the back door of the car, taking out several small bags containing their groceries, mainly the fresh foodstuffs they had bought at the local market earlier. With quiet steps, Ling carried the groceries into the kitchen, washing some of the ingredients before arranging them neatly into the fridge. Finished with the kitchen, Ling walked to the front door to make sure everything was securely locked before finally following Orm to the room. Upon entering the room, Ling saw Orm just coming out of the bathroom with a fresh face. "Are you done?" she asked softly, her eyes gazing at Orm with admiration. Orm smiled as he dried his face with a towel. "I'm done," he replied briefly. However, without realizing it, Orm began to open the bathrobe he was wearing in front of Ling. His body looked so alluring, making Ling hold her breath for a moment, gulping as she was mesmerized by the sight that she thought was even more beautiful than anything they had seen in Japan. Today, Orm, who was about to change his clothes, noticed the sudden silence. He turned his head and found Ling looking at him with a deep gaze full of admiration. "Peeling," he called in a low voice. Sayang, Orm called out again in a spoiled tone. Realizing that Ling didn't answer immediately, Ling snapped out of her reverie, looking up at Orm with sparkling eyes. "Huh, what's wrong?" she asked, a little awkward at being caught daydreaming. Orm chuckled, pretending to make an annoyed face. "What was Fi thinking about? I called her earlier, but she ignored me." Ling slowly approached, her eyes still mesmerized. "I'm just mesmerized by you," she whispered as she reached out, mischievously squeezing Orm's waist. "Peeling," exclaimed Orm in surprise. As Ling was about to get closer, Orm raised a hand, gently restraining Ling's body. "Wait, don't come any closer before Fi takes a bath." "Huh? Should I take a shower first?" We usually have no problem playing even if we haven't showered. Ling teased with a chuckle. Orm shook his head with a smile and rubbed Ling's shoulder. I know, but this time I want Fi to take a shower first. After a long day of walking around, it would be nice if Fi is clean and smells good. Ling laughed softly, then sniffed herself. Realizing that Orm's request made sense, she nodded in agreement, then hurried to the bathroom. All right, wait a moment. I'll be right back. After 30 minutes passed, Ling finally came out of the bathroom. While drying her hair and face with a towel, with calm steps, she stepped into the room, her eyes immediately falling on Orm, who was already fast asleep on the bed. Orm's face looked so peaceful, as if unaffected by the fatigue they had experienced throughout the day. Ling watched Orm silently, approaching with slow steps so as not to wake him. A small smile was etched on Ling's face when she saw Orm's calm expression that made him look so cute. He must be exhausted, Ling murmured in a soft voice. She recalled how hectic their day had been, from arriving in Japan in the morning and then walking around to visit several places in Japan to enjoying a delicious evening meal. It was all probably tiring for Orm, who ended up falling asleep early. Realizing Orm hadn't put on the blanket yet, Ling carefully pulled the blanket over the foot end of the bed. She wrapped the blanket around Orm's body slowly, making sure not to disturb his deep sleep. Ling bent down beside the bed, looking at Orm's face with a gentle feeling filling her heart. Slowly, his hand reached out, his fingers gently stroking Orm's flowing hair. Ling savored the moment, just him and Orm in the peaceful silence of the night. After a while, Ling leaned down, placing a gentle peck on Orm's forehead, as if to express a sincere affection. Good night, sweetheart. May you have sweet dreams, Ling whispered softly, her voice loving. After that, Ling climbed into bed, careful not to make a sound, and lay down beside Orm, closing her eyes, feeling a great sense of comfort just being by the side of the one she loved. Slowly, his body began to relax, and his mind sank into a sense of peace before he finally fell asleep, following Orm in a dream that was hopefully just as beautiful. This morning, the villa was quiet, and only the soft sounds of birds chirping outside the window could be faintly heard. Orm had woken up early, taking advantage of the time to prepare a special breakfast for himself and Ling. He walked with light steps towards the kitchen, carrying his cell phone that already displayed the recipe for fluffy pancakes with mixed berries and honey syrup that he had found on Google last night. Although he didn't cook very often, Orm was confident that this time he could serve something delicious and different. He began to carefully prepare the ingredients. Flour, baking powder, milk, eggs, and a pinch of salt were placed on the kitchen table, lined up neatly waiting to be mixed. In addition, Orm also prepared a variety of fresh fruits such as strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries, as well as a jar of natural honey that he had just bought yesterday. With great care, Orm cracked the eggs and separated the whites from the yolks, then began beating the egg whites until they were fluffy. He remembered that this step would give the pancakes their fluffy texture. When the egg whites were fully fluffy, he slowly mixed them with the main batter, while occasionally smiling at the thought of Ling's face enjoying his creations. While waiting for the first pancake to cook on the griddle, Orm carefully sliced the berries, arranging them on a plate with a beautiful appearance. He wanted to give a sweet touch to their morning, not only with the taste of the food, but also from its appetizing appearance. After a few minutes, The first pancake was finished and looked perfectly golden and fluffy. Orm quickly moved on to the next pancake, stacking them neatly on a plate. He added a little honey to each layer so that the sweetness would seep in. The fragrant aroma of freshly cooked pancakes filled the room, creating a warm atmosphere that made anyone who smelled it instantly feel hungry. Shortly after, Ling appeared at the kitchen door, looking freshly awakened with slightly disheveled hair and a smile that began to spread when she saw him busy in the kitchen. "Morning, dear. Why are you up so early?" asked Ling as she rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off the remaining sleepiness. Orm turned his head and smiled. "Morning, Fi. I'm preparing a special breakfast for us," he replied in a cheerful tone. "I made fluffy pancakes with mixed berries. I hope you like them." Ling came closer, smelled the pancakes on the table and looked mesmerized. "Wow, they look so good. Thank you, dear." Ling kissed Orm gently on the cheek in appreciation. They sat at the dining table, enjoying a quiet breakfast. Ling took a piece of pancake, dipped it in honey and took a bite, then smiled with satisfaction. "These are really good. My wife is really a talented cook." Orm was relieved and happy to hear Ling's praise. "I'm glad Fi likes it," Orm said with a smile. "This is our last day in Japan." Ling opened the conversation while spooning a piece of pancake into his mouth. "Where do you want to go for a walk?" Orm, who had been busy chewing, swallowed quickly. Then his eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "Of course I want to visit Arashiyama. They say there's the Hazu River that we can explore while cycling along its banks." Orm replied quickly, almost without pause. "I also want to take a picture near the cherry blossom garden there. It'll be so beautiful." "Sounds like fun," Ling agreed, gazing lovingly at Orm. "I can imagine how much fun you'll have there, cycling by the Hazu River, flanked by cherry blossom trees whose flowers fall along the way." She then took another slice of pancake, staring at it for a moment before feeding it to him. "And who knows, maybe we can spend more time there, waiting for the sun to set." Orm nodded enthusiastically. "Ah, I can't wait." Phil just imagine us cycling slowly, enjoying the cool breeze as we watch the leaves and petals fall. It will be a wonderful memory for both of us. After breakfast, the two of them got ready, wearing light jackets and comfortable shoes, ready to explore Arashiyama. Ling helped Orm check the camera bag and make sure the battery was full, while Orm prepared a water bottle and small snacks for the journey ahead. The journey to Arashiyama took about half an hour from the villa, but once there, the scenery was truly breathtaking. They were greeted with the sight of the Hazu River flowing calmly with its clear water, reflecting the blue sky above. Along the banks of the river, cherry blossom trees flourished, some of which had already begun to flower, adding to the beauty of the place. "Whoa!" Orm murmured in amazement at the scene in front of him. He quickly grabbed Ling's hand and led her. "Let's rent a bicycle now," he said. Ling complied with Orm's wishes and just followed him to the bike rental place. They rented two bicycles and started down the path that ran along the river. Orm, who was very excited, rode first, occasionally stopping to take pictures or just to enjoy the gentle breeze. Ling followed behind, watching Orm, who looked happy and full of laughter throughout the journey. "Let's take a picture together," called Orm excitedly as they stopped at the edge of a shady path. He looked at Ling with a bright smile, his face looking even happier in the romantic setting on the banks of the serene Hazu River. Ling nodded, smiling as she carefully unloaded her bike. The two of them then dismounted and walked to the riverbank, looking for the right angle to capture the moment. Orm, who was already familiar with the camera, took his position and began to aim his camera to capture the view of the river flowing gently behind them. "Alright, stand here. Fi," Orm said as he pointed at a suitable spot. "I want our positions to be in harmony with the background of the river, so that the photo really looks natural."